are thrilled to have you. Okay. Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to have you here with us again this week in DEI Talk Live, the extended edition. As usual, it is a privilege to have my lovely co-host here with me. My name is Alison Johnson. I am an inclusion strategist, DEIB consultant, business teacher, and I do have two lovely ladies here with me every week presenting and sharing their expertise with us. I'm going to allow April Ogden and Francine Binns to introduce themselves to you and share a little bit with you about who they are.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is April Ogden, and I have about 15 plus years of professional experience in helping leaders to have be more inclusive in their workplace. And I've also done a lot of years of career coaching for individuals with disabilities, ranging from entry level to executive. Thank you, Allison.
Excellent. Thank you so much, April. And then we have Francine share with us.
Thank you, Alison and April. Hi, everyone. My name is Francine Binns. I have over a decade experience in social work, clinical social work, nonprofit organizations, as well as in entrepreneurship. Now, my focus is on employee well-being in the workplace and how that boosts productivity and the bottom line for the organization. So that's me in a nutshell. I also have a podcast for mental health awareness, which I co-host with Claudia Clemmings. It's called the Balance and Bloom podcast. So thank you, Alison and April. It's a pleasure to be here with you both.
Right, excellent. And thank you so much, Francine. So we have April and Francine. Now, for this week, we're going to be speaking about the role of empathy in building inclusive teams. And I'm sure that all of you are listeners, you will benefit so much from this. And stay tuned to hear what we have to share with you. Okay, so we'll have Miss April presented and followed by Francine and Allison. All right. Over to you, April, as you share with
All
us.
All right. Well, again, everyone, my name is April Ogden, and I am the CEO and founder of It's Your Outcome. And you can find us on pretty much every platform and just follow the handle at It's Your Outcome. So today I'm going to be talking about empathy and building inclusive teams from the um, idea of disability inclusion. So I personally have a disability. I acquired it as an adult. And so through that, I've developed this passion to train leaders to create these inclusive workplaces. And also, again, I've worked with individuals when it comes to career coaching from entry level to all the way through executive level, whether it's hidden disabilities or visible disabilities. So, what I'm going to share with you today is not just based on theories and studies. This is what I've gathered from working with people with disabilities. And so, this is pretty much some insight that you don't hear much about. So, I'm going to share that with you today. When it comes to building inclusive teams and having empathy to play a role in that, one of the things that people with disabilities want the most is having that validation, feeling valued and respected in the workplace, and knowing that their disabilities will be regarded as individual experiences that could help build a team. And so that's going to be really important. So when we build these empathetic teams, then people are going to feel more like they belong, and it's going to be more of an inclusive type team. So when we talk about one of the ways to build this, one of the ways is flexibility in the workplace. And so for people with disabilities, this is one of the ways we can show empathy is by building these flexible workplaces. So that could be having a flexible work schedule. I talked about this in one of my podcasts the other day, where it takes many people with disabilities, they have to get up way earlier. They have to sometimes use paratransit, and sometimes the commute, just getting ready from the morning to the time they're at work, it could be a 2 to 3 hour difference. and what a difference it would make if companies built these inclusive teams with empathy, recognizing that, yeah, it will take someone a little longer possibly. And so what about the option to work remotely, flexibility? That will help a lot. All right, so when we start talking about, and I know Francine and Allison are going to talk more on this, I'm just going to talk about it from the perspective of people with disabilities, but creating those psychological safe places. And so that's really important for people with disabilities. We're looking for a place where we can feel comfortable. We don't have to worry about being bullied. We don't have to worry that our disabilities will hold us back from opportunities. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that a little later, but creating those psychological workplaces. A lot of times companies cannot get people to disclose that they have a disability. And the reason for that is because people do not feel as if they're going to be safe in disclosing their disabilities. They feel as if they're going to be denied opportunities, or they could even lose their job. So it's really important to create those psychological workspaces. All right, so now we're going to talk about reduction of biases and in the workplaces, and so how to eliminate those. Basically, you want to raise awareness, and so when we are in the workplaces, people with disabilities, we want to make sure people know not to say things that are inappropriate, subtle insults, things like that. So this getting rid of those biases and microaggression in the workplace, that's going to be very important. And that helps us to feel more comfortable in the workplace. All right. So inclusive decision-making and career growth. As people with disabilities, we want to know that our contributions to building the team, to supporting the organization, that it will be heard. And so we want to know that when companies are hiring people with disabilities, they're not just putting the check in the box, but they are also being inclusive with our contributions, what we have to add to the team. Another thing is career growth. And so we don't want to just be hired. We want to grow within a team. We want the same opportunities as others would have. We want career growth. We don't want to just be hired in a position and then just stay there. So we want the opportunity to grow in our careers as well. And so that's where a lot of the bias training and microaggression comes in at, because we need leaders that are open to having career growth for people with disabilities. All right. And so improving relationships and how that empowers people with disabilities. Empathy is always going to foster stronger workplaces. It's going to empower people with disabilities to feel as if they belong, to contribute more. And so this is one of the ways it's going to help your organization. And then I talked a little bit about it, but sense of belonging, and again, that contribution, this is so important because whether you know it or not, people with disabilities, they are very loyal, and they normally will stay in that position or work with that employer without hesitation. They are the ones that will stick around when everyone's kind of job hopping. These will be the individuals that will stay with you. So creating these empathetic teams, it's going to also help reduce turnover. All right. And so basically, these are all the things that when we're talking about building empathetic and inclusive teams, these are the things as people with disabilities that we are considering, that we are concerned about. And so I'm encourage you to go back and listen to all of this and then determine if you have an inclusive team that has empathy. Thank you so much, Allison.
All right. Thank you so much, April, for your wonderful and in-depth uh, share. And I am certain that all listeners will appreciate this information and see how best we are able to facilitate persons, especially those who are disabled. Okay, so next we have Miss Francine Pins to share with us, and she's a clinical and corporate social worker. Let's stay tuned and hear from Francine. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Alison. And thank you, April, for those wonderful points that you brought out this morning. Okay, so let's get into it. What is empathy? You can say empathy is walking a mile in somebody else's shoes. And what would that involve? It involves not only imagining what it might be like to experience another person's situation, but also understanding their emotions, their individual and unique challenges and needs in that context, in whatever context that they're happening. So I know sometimes we might think we're showing empathy when somebody comes to you and says, I feel nervous about this upcoming interview. I'm feeling very anxious. And you say, well, at least you only have one interview to do. No, that's not exactly showing empathy because what you're actually doing is minimizing that person's experience and not acknowledging, though you may not know it, that, maybe in the past they might have had some embarrassing or traumatic or not so wonderful experiences where interviews are concerned, or maybe, that person has gone through so many interviews and so many rejections up to this point that just the thought of having another one feels like, very traumatic and you don't want to do it. Now, while empathy is generally a positive thing, there's a fine line to walk because it can indeed reinforce biases if we don't consciously combine it with efforts to promote equity in the workplace. So, when and why does this happen? This happens when it is selectively applied, favoring those who are more similar to us or who aligns more with our pre-existing beliefs while overlooking or minimizing the experiences of others. Now, when we approach empathy in that way, it risks being not inclusive. It risks being very exclusive. And another example is that a community might rally around a cause affecting people from a majority racial or ethnic group while being less empathetic towards a similar cause that's affecting a minority group. And this selective empathy can reinforce societal inequities by directing more resources and attention to a majority group's issues. And there are more examples of how we have to be careful when applying empathy that we do not reinforce biases. If it's with, and that happens when we do not combine it with conscious efforts to promote equity. So I also want to give you some real life examples of what empathy looks like in the workplace when we are being inclusive. So let's talk about Microsoft's inclusive design. Microsoft approach to product development is rooted in empathy through their inclusive design initiative. So they created the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which was driven by empathy for gamers who had limited mobility. The design team engaged with users to understand their challenges, which resulted in a product that empowers a broader range of people to enjoy gaming, not just people who are physically able with, full mobility. So this empathy-driven innovation, it not only fosters inclusivity, but it also enhances customer loyalty because they have just included another group that was not before included in the gaming world. Starbucks. There was an incident in 2018 where racial bias occurred in a Philadelphia Starbucks store, which led to widespread criticism. And even though this is a reactive behavior, it still can show you an example of how we can become empathetic and inclusive at the same time. So the CEO at the time, Kevin Johnson, he flew to Philadelphia to meet with the affected individuals personally and issued a public apology and closed down more than 8,000 stores for one day to conduct racial bias training for the employees. Now, even though the action was reactive, you can still see empathy in action. If it was not a reactive response, you can still see empathy in action to show not only for the victims, but also for the broader community affected by the incident. We have Salesforce's support during the pandemic. During COVID-19, Salesforce's CEO, Mark Benioff, he demonstrated empathy by ensuring that no layoffs would occur for 90 days despite the economic uncertainty. So this decision provided the employees with a sense of security during a challenging time, which showed that the company prioritized their well-being over short-term financial gains because nobody knew really what was going to happen during the COVID pandemic. This was something that we haven't experienced in 100 years. So nobody, well, very few people alive would have known what it would be like during a pandemic firsthand. And Salesforce also implemented mental health programs and increased communication to support employees emotionally, highlighting how empathy can guide companies through crisis. So this is a group effort in showing empathy, and we also have individual efforts where managers can look at a team member who is probably they were previously coming to work on time, had good attendance history, started coming to work late. Now, showing empathy would be like having a one-to-one meeting with that staff member and saying, "Hey, what's I noticed that you have been your attendance has been a little off lately. Is there something going on? Do what can we do to assist in this situation? Is this, what try to find out what's happening as opposed to, having a reactive response and just writing them up or, doing something that would automatically punish the person without knowing what was happening that's causing this reaction towards the person because we come to work and we need to give our best. It's expected that we give our best, but life happens, and when we step outside the door of the organization, um there's limited control, and it does seep into the workplace. So showing empathy is one way of engaging the team and having psychological safety, because if you have a manager like that where they're asking you what's happening, you may feel safe enough to open up and say, I have a sick parent at home, or something's happening, and this is why I'm finding it difficult to keep this current schedule as I usually do. And then probably something can be worked out, giving them a different schedule, making it more flexible, having a hybrid situation and just working around that situation. That is empathy in action. And so um these examples show how empathy, when practiced with intention, can lead to more inclusive, innovative, and resilient organizations and an environment that is psychologically safe. So, whether through design thinking, crisis management, employee support, or just fostering open dialogue, empathy serves as a powerful tool for building stronger, more inclusive teams. Thank you, Alison and April.
Excellent. And thank you so much, Francine, for your in-depth explanation and expertise uh, shared with us in helping us to understand the importance of empathy, how we can apply empathy, how we can show empathy in our daily lives, at your organizations, or just wherever you are required to be empathetic. Now, one of the things that I appreciate most about empathy is that it allows you to basically understand the importance of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Okay, I when I was much younger, I used to just think about showing compassion, or uh, being compassionate towards persons for, as they may face different situations. But over time, we learn to understand, or I learned to understand the difference between empathy and the difference between showing compassion, all right, or being compassionate. And one of the things that I appreciate most about empathy, especially as an inclusion strategist, is that I understand that for inclusion to really thrive, it definitely requires persons who understand how or what it is to be empathetic. Okay, so even myself as someone who is focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, focus on improving workplaces through inclusion, I appreciate empathy. I realize that when you are empathetic, you learn to appreciate persons, you learn to be more authentic, and you also learn how to communicate the fact that you are indeed more authentic. One of the key areas that I focus on helping organizations to boost their efficiency and productivity is the fact that they are required to show themselves as being more authentic. Okay, so when organizations are able to showcase themselves as being authentic, it strongly depends on inclusion. Okay, so when organizations can showcase to their clients and potential clients that we truly value you, we truly respect you, we truly are mindful of what it is that you're interested in, of what we can offer you, of the particular product or services that we offer, you really and truly do matter. This is displaying the fact that you are truly authentic to the brand and to the clients that you serve. Now, in order to achieve this, it means that you will focus on allowing your clients and potential clients to be more included, all right, or to foster inclusion in your strategies. One of the key things with empathy is that you are required to listen carefully to your customers. Okay, so in listening to your customers, you listen to understand. A lot of times we think about listening and listen to respond. However, in my book that I recently wrote, From Constraints to Freedom, Unlocking Your Potential with the Solve Method, this is one of the things that I highlight. In order to really be empathetic, in order to really be authentic, you are required to listen to understand more than just listening to respond. When you listen to respond, this means that you already have summarized a response in your brain, or there is something there that you are automatically thinking to respond to. So even before you have finished listening to the individual, this means that you have built up some sort of response in your brain. But when you tell yourself that you are listening to respond, so you're taking an extra time to listen to the situation, carefully analyze, then respond. This is showing true, authentic empathy. So you realize that every day as individuals, we have to take the time to understand empathy even more. Empathy is also a part of emotional intelligence. And for those of us in the workplace this is one skill that all of us are now trying the very best to be as proficient in. So emotional intelligence is strongly related to empathy. Okay. When you learn how to be truly empathetic, then this is also helping you to cultivate that strong sense of emotional intelligence. So one of the key areas for being empathetic is that we have to listen carefully, listen to understand each other, and then we listen to respond. And we also mentioned that we are to be authentic in our actions, to be authentic in even the strategies that we cultivate or we develop as business owners or employers and employees. Empathy also requires that we are aware, all right, so that you can think of it as being socially aware. So we are mindful of the fact that diversity and inclusion is very much important to today's workplace and to the future. Now, just to highlight that some persons there is some sort of controversy as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you may see a lot of information to say that there is trouble where DEI is concerned and that this may be soon eliminated from the workplace. Now, even if we think that DEI will soon be eliminated from the workplace, empathy will always be a requirement if we are to really have a workplace where employers, employees, clients, etc., and other stakeholders are going to feel happy, they are going to enjoy thriving in the workplace, and otherwise where you may be required to showcase your interest or um, give some feedback as a stakeholder. In order to be authentic, in order to show that you are truly valuing the lives of others, empathy is something that will never go away. All right. And this is how you know that diversity, equity, and inclusion, it can never go away because empathy is included in those actions. So what may go away? The terminology, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it may just be rephrased. But when you think about it, if we are striving to a more uh, authentic workplace, if we want to promote inclusion, then we have to be empathetic, we have to be uh, clear communicators, we have to allow persons to feel included. Now, based on what we have shared with you, I am hoping that, and I know that those who are tuning in, that they will take these tips, take these expertise that we have shared with you, and see how best you can allow your team members to feel inclusive. So remember, I want to focus on things like allowing your team members to feel valued. So Francine and April did an excellent job of highlighting that, all right? Allowing them to feel valued, allowing them to feel confident, allowing them to feel respected, allowing them to feel appreciated. And by doing this, we want to take the time to listen to them. Also, we want to highlight the fact that when you are empathetic, you do not wait until an individual in your workplace comes to you and may report a problem or report a situation. But being empathetic requires that also you are observant, right? So when you are observant, even without your clients coming to you or your employees coming to you, you will notice that they may need your assistance. Why? Because remember, as Francine and April shared, being empathetic means that you are putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Now, this requires that you are very observant, you are very understanding and appreciative of who they are. So even before they should come to you and ask you for a particular favor or a particular thing that they need help with, you may have observed that they would have needed this, and therefore, sometimes you are required to reach out and show that you do care. All right, so as we close off, I just want to say thank you to all of you who are going to be watching this video. I hope that you will share with others what we have shared with you today. Do not forget to follow us, April Ogden, Francine Baines, and myself, Alison Johnson. Follow us on our LinkedIn pages. We have so much that we want to share with you, and we have so much that we have in store for you in the future. So continue to be excellent, continue to appreciate each other, and we hope that you will have an excellent week. On behalf of April, Francine, I just want to say thank you and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.